Live from the city of Los Angeles. It is, first of all, Black History Month, man. Let's acknowledge that before we get to anything, man. Salute to Black History Month. It is February 7th, 2023, man. We are in the beautiful city of Los Angeles. It is that time for the weekly tap in. I'm your host of Drug Leaders to Businessmen podcast, and I'm tapping in. What is good? What is really good? Y'all thought I was gonna leave you out, man? Please, man. Just had some obligations yesterday, nonetheless, man. But salute to everybody who's listening right now, all over the world. If you're watching live, go ahead and put your city in the chat so I can give you a shout out and salute. What's going on, my brother Joe? Appreciate you tapping in. Believe you in the AZ. So I certainly do appreciate you guys. You guys could be spending your time anywhere, but I'm glad you are spending it with me. So I don't want to disappoint you. So anybody who's watching in for the first time, we do this every Monday, sometimes Tuesday, depending on when we go live. Sometimes my kids have me kind of tied up for things on Mondays, but nonetheless, I still try to get here and give you guys what I'm doing, on a weekly basis, right? I try not to call it advice anymore. I try to call it, here's what I'm up to. Now you could try it if you want, but this is what I'm doing. Right. So this week, man, this is episode number 12 of season 4. Man, can you believe we are moving along to episode 12 already? And this is called Our Talk Becomes Our Reality. And I laugh, but it's not a joke. Not at all. Our talks becomes our reality, man. There's a thing going on right now with KBLA in Los Angeles. If you guys are listening anywhere else in the world or whatever the case may be, tap into the app. You can listen to Les Brown every day, I think from 11. He's on at 11 and 6 p.m. If anybody knows my story, they know how much Les Brown impacted me, right? I read Live Your Dreams at the lowest time in my life. And it was one of the best things that I ever read, right? And it was one of the reasons why I wanted to even start doing this type of work in the motivation space. It's because of Les Brown. And I'm gonna tell you how God works, right? God will make you meet your hero, right? If you do it right. But sometimes, like my dad used to always caution me, you don't always want to meet your heroes, right? You want to keep them at a distance because everybody's human. So sometimes they may do something that kind of turns you off. Not saying Les Brown did that, but what I'm saying is I had a chance, the opportunity to meet him, and more importantly, I met his son. Cool with his son, John Leslie, and all that. But anyways, I read his book, Live Your Dreams, when I was at a really low point, and the thing that really stuck out with me, among all things, right, just how his story of where he came from in Florida, Liberty City, and how he was, labeled educated. I don't know how he pronounces it, but basically slow. And he's turned it into a career that extends worldwide, global, and he's 100 grand a speech, and he's that dude. Right. But he started off with writing books and just believing in himself. Right. He talked himself into a radio career. He talked himself into all these different things. He just talked himself into it. And when I listen to him on a weekly basis now, I just listen. I'm like, man, I know all this stuff because I followed him for so long. Right. So I know all this stuff. I'm like, man, everything he taught me, man, I'm glad people are starting to get on it now because you'll see the power in the stuff he's talking and what it will do to change your life. And one of the things he talks about, though, on a regular basis is the belief, but more importantly, what we're saying. And that's why I felt it was so important to really tackle this topic today because our talks, we don't understand how much impact what we say, just even in casual conversation. Right. We a lot of times we're self-denigrate. We talk about ourselves and I'm just kidding. And I'm like, why would you say that about yourself? Oh man, we don't really love on ourselves the way we should, right? Because we don't talk like we should. And sometimes I see people online and I'm like, not being judgmental, but if you're really happy, why would that come out of you? You know what I'm saying? And, why would those specific words come out of you? A lot of the word selection that we have, kind of shows what we're dealing with. You don't really hear successful people talking about a lot of negative things, right? They just because they understand if I keep talking about it, self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And there was I'll tell you guys another story. Me and my wife were watching Price is Right. And I don't know if I told you guys the story before, but it was interesting because the lady on there, she came, she said, "Oh, Drew, I've been on here. I've been on this show, man. I came 10 years ago and I didn't win." That's the first thing she comes out the gate with was I didn't win. And then she goes on and on and on. And then she gets caught. She actually gets called up there and plays a game right before she gets to the showcase. She's like, "Oh, Drew, you know what? And you could tell she's already talking herself out of it. What's going on, Sammy? Appreciate it. What's going on, Ashley? And she's already talking herself out of it. "Oh, Drew, this and this and that, and oh, you know what? I'm never lucky, and and she crapped out. Whatever the game was, she lost that game. So then, if you watch Prices Right, you still get an opportunity afterwards to go and do the showcase, perhaps, right? Spin the wheel, whatever the case. And she's like, "Oh, I never win these things." And she said the entire time she's talking about how she never wins the entire time. And guess what? She didn't win, right? And how many times have we done? "Oh man, I'm not gonna get that job. Oh man, I can't. I'm not gonna start this business. Oh man, this is too much." And we sit up there and talk ourselves out of stuff before we even give it action and give it legs. We're talking ourselves out of it, or we get around somebody who's constantly, and I'm like, I can only tolerate negative conversation for literally less than 5 minutes. I can't tolerate it longer than 5 minutes. I'll bounce. I'll leave. I'll change the subject. I'll try my best, but I won't sit up there and absorb that negative energy for longer than 5 minutes. It's impactful, right? Because we don't realize, right? We're starting to mix energy with someone who's dealing with stuff. You got to wish them their best, give them, maybe drop a nugget or two, or say, "Hey, this is how I deal with it." Because you got to be careful with advice too, because sometimes people will use your advice and try to throw it back in your face. "Oh man, you told me this and it didn't work." And I'm like, with that negative ass attitude, of course it's not going to work. You already believe, you don't believe you're going to win. If you don't believe you're going to win, you never will. And your conversation will reflect that, right? "I'm not going to win. All I'm going to do is get this. All I ever do is get this." And you're like, "Why are you talking like that?" But a lot of times what happens is they don't know any better, right? So you can't criticize or ridicule someone because they have negative conversation if they don't know how to develop a better one, right? It's like when somebody cusses too much. You see them, they dropping F bombs, all they have, F this, F. You're like, okay, your vocabulary is limited. Because if you knew other words to use, it would make you sound better, right? Because you guys remember the term, if you heard the term, right? It's better to be presumed an idiot than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. You've heard that one before, right? Better to be presumed an idiot than to open your mouth and remove all doubt. Cold one, right? Stuck with me, right? And it taught me about really, if you don't know enough about a subject or you're not knowledgeable about a particular subject, then sometimes it's better to be quiet. You know what I'm saying? Rather than, "Hey, I'm da da da," and make a complete fool out of yourself. So sometimes, if it and also goes back to, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. So sometimes it's better if you feel in a certain way, then shut up, be quiet until because you could be thinking something, right? And there's power, there's a certain power with just thought. But when you marry that thought with the words, the combination is lethal, right? So you have to, even if you have a thought, man, you can be like, "Man, I can curb this thought. I can maybe change it by exercise. I can walk outside if I'm in a crappy mood. I may have my spiritual bag full of books, right? Because I'm always telling you guys about keep your spiritual bag right next to you, like you might have to leave really quick. You might have to go on a spiritual journey real quick, especially if the enemy's coming at you. So you got to keep a spiritual bag right next to you with all your tools because you're in a spiritual war. This don't stop every morning, homie. This is a constant thing, especially for God's warriors, right? We're a little bit different. We cut from a different cloth, right? We ain't out here killing anybody, but we're not going to church either, right? So we kind of like God's gangsters. You know what I'm saying? Because we don't need to go through the church or anything like that to actually even get to God. We've been had the plug since we really had the plug. I'm gonna let that sink in. We had the plug since we really had the plug. right? So we always know that we was connected with God from a different standpoint. Anyway, Steve Harvey references it too, right? We ain't all we cuss, we do different, but we're not, Bible trying to force it on you. We understand the laws. We understand the laws of the universe. We understand the laws of, the way things are supposed to go. So that's fine. And I'm not hating on religion. I'm just being transparent in that sense, right? But Steve Harvey talks about that. So knowing that, knowing who we are, we're going to be tested on a regular basis, right? So and the enemy's looking for anything to gravitate onto, especially your words, right? He wants you to start talking negative about yourself, looking at yourself. I see people all the time changing the way they look, and I'm like, you got to be in love with yourself, homie. You have to really love yourself in order for other people to fall in love with you too. Because if you don't love yourself, nobody else is going to know how to love you either. So you got to first of all set the tone and the rule. Hey, this is who I am. I love myself. Damn, I look good. You know what I'm saying? And not in a conceited sense, but that's the only mug you got. You feel what I'm saying? You ain't getting another one. You can try to go to Miami and build you one, but this is the only mug you got. You better love it like a car, right? Other people, the bucket, okay, yeah, you love it, you hook it up, man. Other people like, man, damn, that shit kind of clean too, right? But if you don't love it, if you're not in love with who you are as an individual, right? And fall in love with your journey too. Tell your story, man. Look, tell you, man. I used to be like, nah, I don't want to tell my story. Nah, I don't want to. And that's because I didn't know who I was, man. I knew God was with me, but He hadn't convinced me of who I was. And once I started to figure out who I was and started seeing and reading other similar stories, I started to develop a voice of confidence and a voice of, yes, I can. Because at the end of the day, when you're at your lowest point, you're in a prison, you want to catching chains and all, there's nothing else you have but belief. There's nothing else. There's nothing else you have but belief. So you got to talk yourself into stuff, right? They talk about business, how you almost have to be psychotic. So where you got to believe in yourself to the point to where other people are like, hey man, this cat must be crazy. Man, you about to do that too. That's what I would tell you. About to do that too, man. I'm following what these other cats is doing. As far as I know, they got their hands full with a few different things, and they constantly trying stuff. You just haven't read what I read. You just haven't been exposed to what I've exposed to, right? Reason why I'm making the moves that I'm making. And that goes back to information and exposing yourself, right? Having that confidence, setting your intention first thing in the morning, as soon as you get started. Even when everything's trying to push you towards, go ahead and get out there. Man, you unequipped. you ain't got your tools, dog. You're gonna get plastered as soon as you go outside. So you got to write your stuff down, man. Have your intentions already in place, man. Boom, bam, bam. I'm gonna do this, that. And no time in that process are you including any bullshit. So you're gonna miss it. You're not gonna see it. You're not talking about it, right? I gotta go get this done. I said my plan today, man. I need to go get shirts. I need to go do this. I need to boom, boom, boom. I'm downtown. I went through the whole LA in like 20, 30 minutes. Went from South Bay to Crenshaw to downtown to San Pedro and back to the South Bay. All intention, right? It didn't get detoured. Set myself up so that I already knew what I was doing. And that starts with conversation. What you gonna do tomorrow, man? I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna work on chest. I'm gonna do shoulders. So guess what you already doing? Planting the seed with the universe, man. It ain't gonna do nothing but cooperate. You start talking, man, I gotta go to man, I gotta go. You start dreading stuff and having that dreadful conversation, just be quiet about it. If it's something you really don't feel like doing, don't speak on it. Why would you give it power? For what? Your voice has so much power. I wish people would speak more life into me. If I had a whole like army of people like, hey man, D, I'm like, man, y'all voices is so much, man. It's more powerful than the Tesla battery. You have no idea, man. It will charge a car. It will charge a life. It can create a life. It can take one away. You can speak negative about yourself so much that you diminish. Oh man, I'm an idiot, man. It's going to, I tell you what, you're going to start to lose brain cells even faster. Why would you say that? There's a video of Dick Gregory going around talking about that. He said, why would I talk about that? He said, I got 700 million cells that are waiting to tell me to do something like, will do whatever I tell it to do. So why would I tell it to do that? I'm like, word. Why would I tell it to do anything outside of help me win? Reality is reality, right? I'm not saying that tragedies don't exist. I'm not saying that death doesn't happen. I'm not saying that things that we don't want to happen. But are we going to talk about it? What is that going to do? I know if we talk about this, that might inspire us to make a move. And that move might get me there, right? That move might turn me on to this. I don't know how God's leaving me breadcrumbs, but I know these are God breadcrumbs, right? All I'm going to do is keep speaking on it. I don't know how it's going to happen. I was telling my wife that today. We still working on the restaurant. Was at one today. Landed just, I mean, I promise you, listen, you talk about something enough, it will be at your doorstep. Like remember when they on the cartoons and they used to bring the babies, the pelicans? That's how that lands on your door, your doorstep. This one just can't. I mean, it was fantastic. It said the subconscious doesn't know if that's the thing. It has no idea whether you bullshitting or not. It has no idea. All it does is respond. Universe is the same thing. Your subconscious and the universe operate under the same principles. They don't know if you're lying or not. All they want to do is just make it real. That's it. So why not trick our subconscious into thinking positive, into thinking that we can actually accomplish this? What's next? I've challenged you guys on a bunch of stuff. I told y'all what I was getting ready to do. I said we building our corporate credit. I got shell cards. I got a Spark. I got like a GM business card. I went nuts on it. Stuck with it, focused on it, drilled down, and did one step at a time. One step at a time, man. The internet is a month. Man, listen. Everything you want to know is on the internet. Get cracking. The thing about it is you got to get that itch of curiosity, though. That's the challenge, right? The itch of curiosity. Am I curious enough to try to really execute this? Or do I want to talk myself out of it because I know this shit is hard? Because a lot of times subconsciously, right? We don't believe we can really do it. We'll talk that stuff just like sometimes I say that about people of faith, right? They talk that stuff and go to church and all that. And I'm like, but you don't believe in nothing? You don't believe in miracles? Nah, man, it's bad. Whoa. No. You either do or you don't, right? And the thing about it is either way, you both right. So if you don't believe, man, none of the stuff is going to happen for you. It's not going to happen right. But if you do believe, and I don't care what anybody else is doing, I don't care what the circumstances are. That's the crazy part about miracles, right? They wouldn't be miracles if they were supposed to happen, right? They wouldn't be miracles if they were supposed to happen. So the thing about it is, you got to do something that you weren't expecting to do in order for God to really show what he's capable of. He's blessed you, but you ain't asked for enough. You ain't asked for enough. Period. What you ask, man, I just want to. Whenever you put the just in front of something, I already told my wife, I said, man, we hit it. I already know where we going. I said, we going to View Park, Man Beach, crib, vacation. Come back, charity, blessings. Let's change some shit. I already know the play is already mentally there and know what it's going to look like the entire nine. That's what I would do, though. Now, the thing about it is you have to challenge yourself to see what you would do. And if you ain't made a move yet, we making one tomorrow. I'm making another one. I got a homeboy that was with me when I first started community college. And he still ain't started yet. So my thing is, I've been rocking, homie. Let's rock together. So let's start. We got to first of all, we got to believe in. Before we even take a step, you got to believe you can swim before you even come anywhere near the swimming pool. Because if you don't believe you can swim, there ain't no lifeguards out here, killer. They ain't out here. It's almost like when we go to Mexico. Ain't no lifeguards. You can't swim, you can't surf, man. Good luck with that. You're gonna be out here with these. You're gonna be tuna food. But if you can, homie, come on. What you waiting on? God want to show you anyway. What you waiting on? Ain't nothing, ain't no time but right now. That's the only time that really exists. We count stuff in the future. We thinking, oh man, I'll just get to it tomorrow. Man, you better look that shit up, homie. Mel Robbins was on Channel 4 this morning talking about that. Habit stacking, setting yourself up. Like I habit stack down there in my man cave. Computer, books, everything that's on this computer is on that computer downstairs. So I can log into my stuff. I can pull up student stuff, everything. And it's like that on purpose because I go down there to chill, but I want to be productive as well. Right? Habit stacking, living room setup to where if I'm watching a Laker game, I got enough space to do my push-ups. Habit stacking. And she was talking about that, how we need to set ourselves up. In the morning, we talk about working out. Don't make it hard. Have your stuff in the car, have your earphones charged up. Don't make it hard. You haven't started your business plan. Open up a Word document. Put business plan on top. That is sometimes that's the only start you need. And then you say, I'm gonna do it. Okay, I started there. When I come back, I'm try the Pomeroy method, right? The 20 minutes on, 5 minutes to off. That's another learning strategy. Whatever it takes, homie. But get started. Stop playing. Other than that, you're gonna watch me. Man, I had that idea. Man, I was about to. Man, this food is all right. I could have made better. Well, why didn't you? What stopped you? Was it your self-talk? Was it the company you keep? Was it what somebody put in your head early in the game? Because a lot of this stuff is traumatic from us and not even our faults, right? It's a lot of times it's what the people around us believed. So if they weren't believers and they didn't have high achievements, man, oftentimes we didn't know that we can go that high. So I'm not blaming them, but sometimes those are the circumstances we're under. But enlightenment happens at any time in life, right? It's not limited to just early stages when we were young. Yeah, true enough, we're the most impressionable at that time, right? Where we develop our belief systems and whether we can or can at that time. Some people are blessed, some people are challenged. And even if we're challenged, right? Like I said, enlightenment happens anytime in life. So it could be a late stage. You could be a late bloomer. I tell my son all the time, I said, we late bloomers, homie. We got our hair under our armpits, all that stuff late. I remember my homie Harvey. He was already buff when we was in junior high school. I ain't getting no muscles till I was damn near 11th, 12th grade. He had him in junior high school. I'm like, damn. You know what I'm saying? That's the part of the game. Some people go early, dog. It's not to say anything else. I'm chilling now. So that's what I'm saying. Enlightenment happens at any time in life. We late bloomers. We know my blessing comes later. I did the game for a few years. I was cool. Learned a lot, made a lot of partners, learned some real life lessons, but now it's time to move on. Now it's time to really show what you're capable of, right? God got a real plans for you. Don't trip. What you waiting on, homie? And I'm gonna keep asking you. I'm that partner that's in your ear that's gonna keep saying what you waiting on. So when you wake up in the morning, like, damn, here go D in my ear again. What you waiting on? Make a move, man. Shout out to somebody. I just got a message from somebody said they got started, got their CDL, started moving forward. That's it. It's one step, homie. It's really trusting God. I'm just a conduit. I work for God. That's it. I'm not a contractor. I actually work for the cat. So I'm not like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just telling you what man, God, okay, go say this, dog. Go tell him this. You know what I mean? Because I sent somebody else and here. So why don't you go say it? I'm like, cool. All right, I'll say it. But that's it. This is God pushing you. Any blessings that you get, man, give it to God. And like I said, I got a message from somebody thanking me, appreciating the podcast and all that. And I appreciate that. God's the real reason, though, homie. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm going to keep pushing you towards that. I'm not going to ego tripping. Ego tripping would be, man, it's all me, man. If you don't listen to my podcast, woo, woo, woo. No, 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 no. You're going to think I'm lightweight religious. And I'm not. Very spiritual, though. You dig? So that's what I say. You know, I tell you my book, my intention. I got a book of 10. I'm going through it, man. And it's working out. I can't believe the power of that. If I can't verbalize, at least I'm gonna write it down. There's power in all that. All that, homie. What you waiting on? If you ain't went got a journal, go grab one of those, homie. Start to write your intentions every morning. At least discipline yourself to do that. Because not only are you setting your intention, you're disciplining yourself to do something daily that's gonna push you into the future, right? Positively. That's gonna help you grow from a personal development standpoint. It's gonna help you stay on track to keep because you're not gonna write, man, I'm gonna go kick it with the homie and go smoke over. You're not gonna write that in your intention book. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna knock out. I said I did shoulders and chest. Knocked it out smoothly. Said what I was gonna do after that. Done. Damn near wrote what we was gonna have for dinner. But that's the power of intention. And then you don't get swayed. Because when you don't write your intention, you're kind of setting yourself to the mercy of whatever the weather's giving out outside. Right? Whatever the weather has, that's what I'm going. If it's windy, I guess I'm blowing away. If it's rainy, I guess shit, I'm wet. If it's hot, I guess I'm gonna burn up. If it's cold, I'm gonna freeze. Whatever the conditions give me. But when I set my intentions, I don't give a shit what's going on outside. What the weather is, none of that. That ain't got nothing to do with my intention. I'm about to get this done. Rain, sleet, snow, hell, or high water. It's going down. So the universe better clear it up before I go out this door. Because when I go out here, this is getting done. And ain't nothing stopping me. And if it doesn't get done today, it's getting done tomorrow. If it don't get done tomorrow, it's getting done the day after that. But I promise you this, it's getting done. Once I put that in motion, once I say that, hey man, this is gonna happen. It's happening, homie. It's gonna happen. And you need to go on with that confidence to speak that. Speak to the right person because you don't need to get shot back. Ah, homie, you got what you once they get to talking that shit, then turn it down. Just go ahead, either press the off button on them or turn them down. You can unplug them in the back. You can do all that shit. Just disconnect, dog, quickly. They're gonna drain your battery. It's like that amp or that radio that stay on that won't ever turn off. It's just gonna eat you up, dog. You're gonna go out there try to start yourself up one morning, and you're gonna realize I have no juice. Why? Because I kicked it with this energy sucking juice ass cat. That's who I've been around, and he just sucked the energy out of me. Told me all his life problems and just laid it on. I said, "Oh shit." And I started absorbing. I started feeling like, whoa, hold on, homie. I can't absorb that. So a lot of times people, I got cast, D, why you, homie, listen, man. I'm at a certain age where all this time that I got left here, legacy, and that's it, homie. Positivity and legacy. But I don't have time for that. And that's the thing. You got to set your tone to where because it will have you, like I said, you kick it around somebody who drops F bombs constantly, you're going to drop one or two in your next conversation with somebody else, right? You start talking to somebody about businesses, growth, development. You're going to start talking about that in your next conversation, right? Because your input is ultimately going to be your output. So, who are you spending time with? What are you watching? Right? I watch certain things. I'm only interested in certain. I listen a lot. I do a lot of walking and I do a lot of listening. My ear, those are important to me. I got two pair of Bluetooth earphones. Very important to me, right? Because I hear all my books on there. So I make sure that that part of my life is intact, and I got a subscription to Audible, so I'm constantly getting information. It's one of the things Les Brown talked about on KBLA. Reading 30 to 40 pages a day. He said, if you do that, you'll read 3 to 4 books a month. He said, the average person reads 1 book per year. Think how much more advanced you're going to be. That's the one thing about this podcast. You see it on my shirt. Always. I believe in that. 100%. 100%. That if you could read yourself out of anything, because it's discipline, you're absorbing the information, you're quiet, it's a different level of retention. So, And then when you practice it, like right, like the Pareto principle, where you're doing 20 minutes on, 20 minutes, when you can practice this too. This is a real principle. I mean, real practice. When you read for 20 minutes and then you stop for 5 and you absorb whatever it is that you read. So that you're not just reading, because a lot of times we'll read and we're not absorbing the information. We're like, damn, I don't even really know what this book was about. Right. But if we read from a Pomereto standpoint, then 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off, and you could do an hour, right? And I read for an hour, but I took 20 minutes at a time. So it wasn't just super heavy. And I really, really started to analyze the information that I'm obtaining or retaining, and not just reading just to read, right? And then you're gonna notice that your vocabulary changes, because you're gonna see words and you're gonna see words that you've never seen before, that you're gonna have to look up, that you're going to want to use so that you can improve your vocabulary. Somebody mentioned my relative was talking about Shirley Chisholm. Look up Shirley Chisholm. Vocabulary was crazy, impressive, right? Right now, I'm on the Black History thing. I'm reading about Paul Robeson. Still, amazing cat. That's what I'm on right now. So I'm constantly trying to enlighten myself. And the more that I read, the more that I realize I need to read more, because there's so much out there, right? So a lot of people maybe turn, oh, D, you would tell you what, man, you get on a prison yard, you'll be happy to get a book. Excited. Jeez, tired of this, right? Keep looking at these cats, right? And you hear all the successful people talking about it. Quincy Jones, I borrowed a lot from him. Like he talked about, he always gives people a book. I give books away all the time. All the time I'm giving books away. You come around me, man, you might walk up out of here with a good one, because that's how I rock. I believe in that. I believe in that's the way you change the world, is not only by allowing and facilitating people to change themselves, but you do it at the same time and give them the tools. You want to use my tools? Here's what I did to build this. Not saying that I'm everything, but here's what I built so far. But I'm always work in progress. I'm tinkering, I'm always changing. But here's the tools that I'm using. And this is what I kind of do with you guys on a weekly basis, is try to update you with the tools that I'm using that are successful for me. So one of them is my verbal conversation. Anybody knows, they'd be like, man, I can't even. They try to avoid, man. I got a negative story. I ain't about to tell him, because I'm just not trying to hear it. I'm just not. I understand. Believe me, and I'm not being not being a jerk. But the only people want to hear your problems is the doctor. Seriously. Other than that, what you got to be you got to be telling me a solution, homie. You can't just tell me a problem. What you telling me a problem for? You expecting me to figure it out? Well, we can get in the lab and try to figure it out together, but you got to come in with the intention of solving this problem. I have this problem. So you mentioned it briefly, but what's that say? Paul Robeson was like, yup. Yeah, man, for real. Paul Robeson is the truth. But that's the thing. Excuse me 1 second. Sorry. That's the thing. Like, yeah, no, I appreciate that. What's up, Endo? Appreciate you tapping in, loved one. I really do. And that's the key right there, is mainly watching what you say. I realized the power of my conversation. Speaking of Paul Robeson, the orator, power in that. Spoke values. Nobody could speak to the tones of Paul Robeson. So that's what I'm, like I said, that's what I'm on, but I'm constantly reading. I read whatever I can. And I remember one of my professors told me that. He's like, I read textbooks during the summer for recreation. I'm like, but you're really sharp. And I'm like, I see why. And that's the thing. We got to surround ourselves with the type of people that we want to become, not the people that we feel better around because we're better than them. That's not going to make you grow. That's like going to the weights and looking at the tens like, oh, yeah, what's happening? They ain't going to do shit for you. You better go over there to the heavies where you're uncomfortable, where you ain't used to being, right? Where you got to change your vocabulary. You got to change your conversation in order to fit in over here. That's growth, right? I'm no longer the same person that you knew, even if you knew me 5 minutes ago, because I'm constantly changing and evolving into something different. And that's what I'm striving for you guys. Hopefully you're changing into that, because evolution, the only people that we learned that from Darwin, and probably Darwin, anyways. But we learned that, right? We need to constantly be evolving. And we can't be evolving by talking ourselves out of our dreams. by limiting ourselves because our vocabulary is limited, by limiting ourselves because our information is limited. Right now, there's literally no excuse, right? If you don't have the internet, the library has it. You don't know where the library is, you got to find it. You got to do that much. Once you get to that point to where you get to the library, all the answers you're looking for are in there. Cookbooks, business setups, equipment, engineering. You got to be hungry. And that's another thing Les Brown talked about. You got to be hungry, right? I was talking to one of my partners. Shout out to my boy Tosh. He came in from Japan. Well, he came in from Japan, going on his way to Brazil. Hey, my Brazil, man, you can't take your phone out like that, man. Get you. He's like, it's a real third world country. I'm like, man, that's real. Like, they really hungry. So you can't look like meat in front of a starving wolf. Polar bears, right? I heard Joe Rogan tell that story about polar bears. They only eat meat. And if they smell you, they don't, there's no grass, no nothing. That's why they can smell you. There's just ice out there. They coming for you. Like, wait a minute. Right. So my I'm trying to think where I was really going with that, but because it was a really interesting story. But at the same time, we got to constantly be evolving, right? Because things around us are evolving, right? And we got to constantly be talking ourselves into new things, right? Stretching ourselves, becoming different, going in a different direction. I'm excited about the way the future's looking, right? Some people aren't. But even if you truly believe that it's dismal, don't put it out there. Don't give the universe any more ammunition to limit you. And you think a lot of people don't believe it's real. A lot of people don't believe in karma. A lot of people don't believe in if I say this, it's like, man, know what dude be talking about. Like, man, I never get this stuff right. And you never will. Man, I stay winning. You always will be. I say that all the time. I'm winning. I'm constantly. Doesn't stop. And that's what I'm proposing to you guys. You guys got to constantly be saying, I'm winning, even if it looks like you lose it. Because only time it looks like we're losing if we're comparing ourselves to somebody else. Then it looks like, oh, damn, I don't have anything. Man, yeah, you do. You've been to a third world country and seen what time it is. You've seen what's going on in Yemen and all that. Man, we are up. And the sooner we realize we up, even no matter what it looks like when we walk outside, we go outside our room or whatever, you got to have that tunnel vision on and realize that my payday's coming. Like you in a pen, my date's coming. I got a date, homie. Right? I got a date. Some of these cats ain't got dates. They ain't figured it out yet. I got a date. That means I got something I need to do. So you can't talk yourself out of stuff before you get into it. And our power of our voice is everything. So watch what we're talking about. Gossip is sexy, but it is contagious and it's poison for us. Even when we talking about somebody else, we think we telling a story, man, we got to watch our mouths. Because somebody else's tragedy may become ours. So we got to be careful how we telling that. We don't need to constantly keep talking about it. I don't talk about certain things. I just don't. People think oh, you tripping, you insensitive. I understand what's going on. I hope you get to. There's a difference. Some people, yeah, I know what's up, D. What been? Man, do you? If you did, I wouldn't have heard that come out your mouth. Because people can say what they want, but you're around me, you know how I'm talking. Period. Optimism, homie, or we're not gonna have too much of a or they gonna be like, man, I don't really know dude like that. Hey, homie, it's like that. I'll shut it down quick. Because I ain't got time for it. And you shouldn't either. Don't tolerate that shit. I don't care who's trying to give it to you. That negative talk, don't go for it. Shut it down. If it's mom, dad, sister, brother, uncle, cousin, I don't care who it is. If it's gossip on TV, shut it down, man. That stuff is poison. You got to watch what you watch before you go to bed. I remember we was watching the 48 all the time, first 48 before I went to bed. Man, I woke up bad mood every time we watched out. The next day I was in a bad mood. So it's our inputs. Determine what we're talking about. I know somebody's constantly posting about deaths on Facebook. That's the only time you hear from them is when somebody dies. I'm like, man, they got to be dealing with depression. You just post are you the obituary? But some people will rock like that. You know what I'm saying? Some people, that's a way to make them feel better. I'm like, man, I don't need that. I don't need crutches, dog. Me and God are straight. That's the only thing that I really need is God. And he'll give me everything else. That will conclude our weekly tap in for this week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this, man. Those who are listening and watching, make sure you guys hit the subscription. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe, man. We're working on that 800. We need y'all. We need y'all. We need y'all. Share this, share this, share this. If you're watching on Facebook, man, hit the like, hit the subscribe so that you guys do not miss another episode. Bring me questions, man. I will answer them, man. I might even tell you guys a little bit about this business credit thing. So we'll see, man. But other than that, I'm reading Paul Robeson's still. It's called Everything Man. The story of Paul Robeson's written by I think she's like a music teacher or something like that. So yeah, man, that will conclude the weekly tap in. I'm tapping out. See y'all later.